You know, Jules Verne wrote a book entitled Around the World in 80 Days, also one of my favorite movies. But this is what they call the sinceri around the world. So explain this, Jim.
It's homemade, breaded, deep-fried eggplant.
Right on.
Never been frozen, of course. Has the mystery cheese on top of it. And I can't tell you what's in the mystery cheese, Rob.
Well, is that anything?
And also, you have our homemade hot sauces, our homemade meatballs, and you have sauteed peppers and onions in there. If there's anything better, I want it.
Listen, you're welcome to stay if you want. We're going to get to work there.
Okay?
I love this family. And thank you so much for letting us come here today to the strip. And by the way, oh yeah, I got to tell you, Columbus Day Parade is coming. Guy Costa Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Columbus holiday, big deal. That parade's pretty special, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's another reason why Pittsburgh is someplace special.
That's right. You talk about hometown parades, Italian spirit, and Italian love, Italian respect. It's all Italian. I was just in Bloomfield on Saturday, and I could not believe it. I mean, you can go to any little shopping bazaar you want, anywhere in the entire world, and it's not going to be any better than what they have up in Bloomfield.
You know, Dom and Paul and of course Guy, you and your brother, if you either say Costa or Sinceri, you can basically get into any club in Pittsburgh. You realize that? Dom Costa sent me. Jimmy Sinceri sent me. Okay, come in. Thank you for this. We will enjoy it later. Listen, Georgia Tech, they've lost 2 straight. And I was actually thinking this might be a little bit more competitive. But I think that the Panthers, especially with a guy who's making a bid to become an All-American, Mr. Price, this defensive end, the price is right. 7.5 sacks. He's had a sack in just about every game. Tell me about this Ewan Price.
He's been really strong. He's one of the Hills kid. And, one of the things, last year I think he had 7 sacks in the Virginia Tech game alone, and that really kind of put him on the map. But he's really been strong off that edge in times when they needed it. Started out in the Penn State game and really comes on strong as a pass rusher, really a pure pass rusher, not much of a coverage guy or anything like that, but has been very productive in doing that. And he's going to be very important in this game coming up because they've got to play the option. Georgia Tech's a pure option team. And in playing that, you've got to have that one guy who's going to really just go hard against the quarterback, make him make a decision fast. So he's going to pitch it, okay, you've given up, but make sure that quarterback pays the price every time he's going to run that option.
All right, Quadri Henderson, a sophomore receiver. We talk a lot about Quadri who runs the football, but this kid's pretty special, isn't he?
He can flat out fly, Bob. He's running that jet sweep, and if you noticed the other day, the Chiefs ran the exact same jet sweep with a number 10, who they say is the fastest guy in the National Football League. But I'll tell you what, Quadri would give him a run for his money, and he really runs that well coming off. And he's got a little bit of a read when he runs that jet sweep. He's coming around the end, and he's got basically 2 blockers outside. He can either cut that thing up, and if he gets that seam, which he has hit on a number of occasions, he can really bust that thing long, or if he just takes it outside, and usually he's got 8 yards at a minimum on the outside of that play.
What do you see elsewhere besides these 2 teams really just trying to get some sort of momentum? The Panthers stumbled a couple of games they could have won. Get the Marshall win, although Marshall made a bit of a comeback late in the ball game. But both of these teams, especially now Georgia Tech, where Pitt was last week before they got the win, they both need this to kind of get going in the right direction, right?
They both need it badly. But, if you look at North Carolina's up to number 17 in the country now. So, in retrospect, maybe the Panthers, in losing that, and they had the game, they just kind of, let that slip away at the end. But if they knock off North Carolina, they probably actually flip-flop spots in that ranking system, and they're probably in the top 20 right now.
Wow. Homecoming, what's that like, especially during your days at Pitt?
Well, my days, before my days at Pitt, they used to be when they tore Ford's Field down, there was a big empty lot where Ford's Field was. And that was where they had a huge bonfire and fireworks. And that was the highlight of our fall as kids growing up. Having that bonfire go on right behind what we call the Shenley Plaza. You had the big bonfire and the fireworks, and the band was there, and the cheerleaders were there, and we were all enamored of the dance team and all that other stuff, and how gorgeous those ladies were. And as we were kids growing up, it was one of our favorite days of the entire year.
All right, we move on now to professional football, and the Steelers 1 o'clock Sunday against the Jets. And I mentioned Joe Namath earlier. when you think of Joe Namath, what do you think about? I kind of look at him and Marino almost hand in hand too, right?
If you talk about, one of those Rorschach type tests and say, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? It's the commercial with the pantyhose and the fur coats.
Oh, yeah.
Not him as a football player. I don't really remember him as a player. I was a little bit too young for that. But the films that you saw, but what an outstanding player was. I always found it unique about Joe Namath was he ends up going to Alabama and he gets a southern accent somehow. The kid's from Beaver Falls, for goodness sake.
No, I heard he had that accent when he was in high school. It just was cool, so it had to be Joe. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's good. He ain't no Joe Namath, but he's good.
Yeah.
He's an Ivy Leaguer, 4 touchdowns, 1,012 yards, but he's got 10 interceptions. You look at Ben, 11 TDs, 1,016 yards, and only 4 interceptions. Once again, Ben Roethlisberger showing everyone why he is a future Hall of Famer.
He is, somebody earlier today I was listening to the Fan, and they were talking about Roethlisberger and said, potential Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any potential about it. I think he's already cemented himself as a Hall of Famer. And when you talk about Fitzpatrick, I think one of the things that is hurting him right now is the intellectual part of it. He's overthinking the position a little bit, where he needs to just go out and cut it loose. He needs a little bit of that Terry Bradshaw, I'm just a dumb old guy who can go out there and throw it as far as I can.
Wait. Bradshaw ain't no dumb guy.
No, but that was the persona that he put out there.
Right. Matt Forte, the former Bear, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns. D'Angelo Williams, 265 yards, 3 TDs. Le'Veon Bell's only suited up once during the regular season, and he rolled for 144 yards. So let's take a look at the running backs of both the Jets and the Steelers.
Didn't that buck 44 out of Le'Veon Bell sneak up on you? I mean, I didn't think
he broke the one long run, but he's just effortless. He glides. He reminds me, and here we go again, that pit comparison, Dorsett. Like that game he had 300 yards against Notre Dame, and they had the tearaway jerseys, TD. Honestly, I remember watching that game in South Bend, and when they said 303 yards, I'm like, well, how many times did he actually have the football? Bell's the same type of running back.
You're right, Robbie. And one of the things that the Steelers did so impressively in that game is they even started out in that first drive, had him out wide, almost as a wideout. And Ben hit him on that quick little slant, and maybe that just kind of jump-started him, got him going. And once he got going, holy smokes, you get those 2 turnovers early, the quick 22 points, and everything went right for the Steelers in that game. As bad as they looked the week before to come back, and now back to what we were saying on our radio on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show, talking about how good that the Steelers could be. And I thought, at that time, best in the league. I think they're back among that high-powered best in the league type team.
We're at Jimmy and Nino's in the Strip. Megan, wonderful employee, shooting this on the Samsung Galaxy 7. Look at this, folks. This is kind of new to this location. You got seating here now, so you can come down, business luncheon, family, whatever, and you can enjoy some of this great food. Now, let's take a look at the wide receivers. Antonio Brown, 369 yards, 4 touchdowns. Brandon Marshall, who does a great job inside the NFL, I think. Very articulate young man. He's big, he's strong, 249 yards and 1 touchdown. He could be the key to the Jets' success, I think, because our secondary, now Gilbert's banged up a little bit, still skeptic a little bit as far as fans if this secondary can actually deliver. I think he will test them, meaning Marshall. And Brown, if you think of Revis, the Aliquippa native, he is still one of the best in the business. But Brandon Marshall scares me a little bit.
And well, he should. I mean, this is one of the highest quality receivers in the game today, and therefore is probably one of the highest quality receivers to play. What you need to have a focus on is shut down Brandon Marshall. Make somebody else beat you.
Wrap it up now. Major League Baseball, Baltimore, Toronto, in Toronto tonight. The O's home run leaders of the American League, and Blue Jays are 4th in home runs, but Edwin Encarnacion, this guy, like David Ortiz, can put runners on the base and then, of course, bring them home. 127 RBIs each this year for those guys. The O's have a very strong bullpen. ERA is only 3.41. 8 o'clock TBS tonight. What do you like?
I'm going to root for the Orioles. I think that Toronto's a pretty good baseball team. They got 5 former Pirates on that team. And Joey Bats is a guy that, pretty good. I think that there's trouble brewing for the Orioles.
All right. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock ESPN, Madison Bumgarner. Sorry, Pirate fans, I had to mention him. He will go for the Giants' Noel Syndergaard. And I was talking to John Prado of FanRag Sports last night at the Brighton Hot Dog Show. He said this could be a pitcher's duel this game tomorrow night.
Yeah, which you would expect. I mean, both of the teams had, knew pretty much that they had their situations wrapped up in hand, so they positioned their starting rotation so that they could have themselves in the with their main guy on the hill. Mad Bum's pretty good. He didn't have the year that he had the previous year, but when you get into these playoffs and the October weather turns, that should be a really fascinating game. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's in New York at City Park Stadium. But listen, Citibank rather Stadium, I believe, because of the Giants' experience in postseason this year.
One game, one baseball game, and that's tough with baseball. You narrowing everything down to one game, and the Pirates have gone through several years in a row prior to this one. That one baseball game is tough. You never really know what baseball.
All right. Any closing comments about the Pirates this season? We need pitching.
Yeah, it's time to put them to rest. They'll be all right. I believe in the Pirates. They do need to get some pitching. I think those rookies did get a lot out of the experience that they had this year. We need a left-hander. We don't have any left-handers in the whole pipeline. So got to figure out how to get a good left-handed pitcher to come in there, and then we'll be okay.
I still think what the Dunning family has done has been flat out fantastic. Clint Hurdle, his whole staff. It's just been a great couple of years for the Pirates, and a little bit of a bump in the road. They'll be back next year. I'm going to let you take this back to the office. I am. Share some with your lovely wife, and of course your father, and your mom and dad, your late mom and your dad. Italian was everything to them, right?
Oh, well, my mom, much like Jimmy was talking earlier, his Irish mom. Well, my mom was kind of a mutt. She had, everything in her, and that was a fond term for her. She said, I'm a mutt. But she learned to cook Italian from my dad's family, and she would have rivaled whatever all these guys do. I mean, this is good stuff, don't get me wrong. But when your mom's making it, it's special.
Nobody cooks like a mama, for sure.